Dave Palumbo here with an RxMuscle news update. Look, we always want to hear about Big Ramy, and it seems like Dennis James had a little conversation with him. I don't know if this was done via Instagram or some kind of Instagram live or something like that. Obviously, Dennis and Ramy have some history together. Dennis was one of the first people to really, work with Ramy, helping him get ready for that first New York Pro victory that he had. And really, he was the guy who kind of, really introduced, I guess, the world to Ramy. Even though Ramy obviously was a bodybuilding force in his own right over there in the Middle East, I don't think a lot of people really knew much about him. They obviously had contacted Dennis, and Dennis formed some sort of a friendship with him and Bader at the time, and they worked together for at least that first show, and the rest is history, so to speak. So I guess the two of them were chatting, and which is a rarity when we talk about Ramy, because we never hear anything from Ramy. He doesn't really go online. He doesn't talk. He doesn't post things. So this is kind of like really breaking news in the sense that we're actually finding out what the hell's going on with Ramy and what some of the logistical problems are with him competing. And the main thing we find out here is that Ramy has a shoulder injury, or had a shoulder injury that required surgery. Let's hear it right from his voice.
I have a problem in my shoulder.
Oh, see, I had surgery in the shoulder too. What's the problem?
My tendon from biceps is touch the bone, and he get what? And the doctor, he said no, don't train a little bit.
Okay, now, obviously, I have to assume that the surgery, whatever was done to him, I'm assuming it was probably a cleanup surgery. I don't know if they actually went in there and actually started repairing, major muscle tears. Probably it was more of a cleanup, I've had that done. The recovery from that is usually 2 to 4 weeks. It's not that big a deal. And if that's the case, and, Ramy is pain-free, then I have to assume that he'll probably be, at his best or pretty close to it when he competes. But that could also account for why he's not going to be doing the New York Pro or the Toronto as was originally rumored. Now, assuming that he does get back to where he needs to be, the problem arises, he's doing Tampa. Tampa is the last Olympia qualifier. Even though it's only in the beginning of August, that's the last Olympia qualifier. Any show after Tampa, you qualify for 2020. So Ramy has one shot to qualify for the Olympia. Remember, he placed out of the top 5 this year at the Olympia in 2018, and so he has to requalify. The problem is Dexter Jackson's doing Tampa. For whatever reason, he picked that show. It's right down the road from his house. Essentially, he lives in Jacksonville, not too far from there. And obviously, I don't know if Dexter ever won Tampa. He's won pretty much every other show, and that's the show he set his sights on. And I believe that Dexter will be at his absolute best. I don't think that Dexter's going in there taking any chances. He's going to show up in Tampa shredded to the bone. And I think he probably will like the fact that Ramy's doing this, because if he wins Tampa with Ramy there, that actually is a huge validation on his part. The problem is that if Ramy loses in Tampa, he doesn't qualify for the Mr. Olympia 2019, and then that's a problem. Okay, so I don't know what a great idea it would be for Ramy to pick Tampa as his show to do to qualify for the Olympia. Now, from what I understand, there's a show the week before that in Lebanon. That might be a better, option, especially since he's in Dubai. I guess he's living there, which is not too far from there. He can do both and hedge his bets a little bit. If he wins one, he can always back out of the other, or he can just do both. I mean, at this point, I think the more Ramy gets on stage, the better he looks. At least in my experience of witnessing what he does when he goes on those European tours, he seems to get better. So I don't know, what him and Neil Hill are doing. I could always reach out to Neil at some point and find out. But I guess Tampa seems to be the plan at this point, and that's going to be a make or break show for Ramy. He has to beat Dexter at that show, as well as everyone else. We don't even know who else is going to be in that lineup. But it's interesting, at least to find out that Ramy was injured or had an injury, nagging injury that needed to be addressed. It seems to be fixed now. Obviously, the problem is we're here in April, at the end of April, and Ramy is telling us he's not even allowed to drive. So, this is cutting it pretty close as far as I'm concerned. If it was 8 months out, I'd say okay, but we're talking, we're a couple months out from Ramy having to get on stage in Tampa. You know, it's not that long. It's only like 4 months. So it'll be interesting to see where this all ends up and how Ramy looks. Obviously, if he doesn't look good, the excuse will be the shoulder. If he looks great, then, you know, then I guess everyone's just going to be like, Ramy's a freak, you know, and maybe Ramy needed this little motivation, or maybe he had this nagging injury that was preventing him from training the way he needed to. Either way, I think this adds a little level of excitement and a little drama to the whole Big Ramy spectacle that's been going on for the last 5 years now. We've all been waiting for him to, you know, win the Olympia crown and take his place on, you know, on Mount Olympus, so to speak, and it hasn't happened. Will it happen this year? Who knows? We'll have to wait and find out. I'm Dave Palumbo for another RxMuscle news update.